All right, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Indie Dev, the official podcast of Graphite Lab, where we as independent game developers gather around once a week to talk about indie game development. I'm your host, as always, John McCula, and I'm here with head honcho Matt Rathel.
Hey, everybody.
Studio director here at Graphite Lab. What's going on, Matt Rathel?
Lots. Keep him busy.
Good.
Keep him busy.
Always good to keep busy. And it's an exciting episode of Indie Dev here because we have a newcomer, one of our many interns here, Mr. Brad Austrin. Is that right?
That is correct. Hello, everybody. Hello.
What's going on, Brad?
Not a whole lot. You know, I'm kind of easing in here. You know, getting used to how things go.
Gotta wade, a little bit. Gotta dip your toe in the water.
Right. It's like a pool, pretty much.
Enjoying yourself so far?
I am definitely enjoying myself.
What temperature is the water at this point?
It's one of those ones where, I would come in and think, oh, it's going to be freezing. But, I get in and it's perfect, it works.
Come on in, everybody. The water is
fine.
And you're not just saying that, because your boss is sitting right here.
No.
I am no man's boss.
Everything's great. It's great. Oh,
don't hurt me.
What you guys can't see on the podcast is there's about 16 Nerf guns pointed at Brad right now.
I see 17.
Yeah. Threatening, styrofoam assault if he doesn't say that things are awesome.
Yep.
So, Are they styrofoam Nerf darts? Styrofoam.
There's some.
They're foamy.
Styrofoam-ish.
They're not painful, so. Well, they can be.
Not yet.
They can be.
Not the ones we got.
Oh.
I was a game developer until I took a Nerf dart to the knee. Anybody? No.
Ooh. Get with it.
Back to you, John.
I had a teacher in school who would bring Nerf darts to
class.
Yeah, and if you said something stupid, he would shoot you.
Oh, gosh.
But,
that seems...
Yeah, they made him put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, that seems ill-advised.
It's kind of rough.
Unschooly, I guess.
I mean, it's one thing to shoot someone. I mean, you could just, shoot the board, just to scare everybody.
Yeah.
It's like the hand to the whiteboard or chalkboard or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I've never shot anyone. I've been teaching for a long time.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So Brad, you're still in school.
I'm still in school. Yeah.
You want to tell people where you're from?
Sure. I am studying computer science at UMSL. I've just finished my junior year, so I'm going on to my senior year. And yeah, that's the story, I guess.
Good.
UMSL is University of Missouri St. Louis for all of our international listeners out there. Eventually. But cool. So tell a little bit more about what drew you to the program. What kind of things you're doing?
Sure.
You just finished your school year. Mm-hmm. What kind of things did you do over this last year, even that were kind of high points or most exciting?
Well, honestly, it wasn't a very exciting year, but I mostly knocked out gen eds. I had to learn programming languages, which is a class that generally covers all the languages. It's the structure of everything.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. But I'm really taking computer science because, it was a good way to break into the industry. Because if you know the inner workings of things, you kind of get a good understanding for how everything works. Mm-hmm. If you know how things work, you can kind of design better. It's like the integral piece to everything, basically.
Sure. So you're saying it's a good idea to know what you're doing.
It's a good idea to know what you're doing. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, man. So I didn't actually take a traditional computer science course. I took one of these actual focus on game programming specific courses. Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering if there's too much of a benefit to that, or if you can
I would have loved to have something like that, but
I'm wondering what kind of courses are you taking, and do you find that a lot of it kind of pertains to game development? Obviously computer science in general,
I think it's mostly
computer science.
Right. It's pretty general. We learn Java, C++, and then we learn structures of data. Mm-hmm. So, we learn about linked lists. That was a whole class where we learn how to organize things. And it wasn't too fun, but you would learn how to do it.
That's important, man. You got to know how to store your data.
Got to know how to store the data.
Right.
Yeah, but there was no real focus on design of games or, making actual things. We would just throw together examples and that was it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you don't do a whole lot of I guess practical game development? It's like Is it like following a textbook? Like
pretty much
make a linked list, make a
or like sort fruits in a tree. You know, here's the apples. You know, like that. So it wasn't too fancy, but I learned how to do things, so that was good.
Yeah. All that stuff, is lists and data management and all that kind of stuff. That does pertain, to game development.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But do you get like an opportunity to work on your own side projects? Like, do you have your own thing going on?
So usually what I would do, after school, I would come home, write documents, plan things. I've been doing this like all my life, just writing ideas, playing around with Game Maker, just trying new things. And I've always enjoyed that, just kind of making projects, even if I didn't, get to actually make them. So, it's pretty much been a hobby for a long time.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, cool.
So what kind of things really have inspired you so far, game-wise? Like if you had to pick maybe your top three.
Top three.
Or pick from your top 10. Because I find asking people what their favorite video game is nearly an impossible. It's like a brain-stopping task, right? It doesn't compute. Maybe there's a few people out there, so I'll ask either pick from your top 5 or top 10, or I'll ask like what's in the drive bay right now, or what's like latest played on Steam right now.
Sure.
And usually they can answer those questions more easily.
Well, actually, I got a lot of creators, I really like Hideo Kojima. That's one of my favorites. I love Metal Gear. Zone of the Enders, it's kind of an underrated kind of one. The mecha action game. Love that so much. I also really like Yoko Taro. He's kind of underrated. I don't know if you guys know. He makes Nier, Drakengard. Ever heard of him?
See, Drakengard.
I bought Nier, and I played it once.
Nier is probably my favorite game of all time.
Wow, okay.
Give it another shot, John.
That's probably my number
I'll
one.
have to.
It's one of those ones that, it starts, you're not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what the hell. It was it was like a time, I bought it recently. I bought it with like, a couple other things. And I'm like, this is kind of crazy and I hear good things.
It's very crazy, yeah.
But I'm going to go to these other things that maybe make a little more sense right now.
The thing about it is that you kind of have to play through it and then you kind of understand like the twist. And then revisiting it, you see how the twist applies, and it's just mind-blowing how it handles everything. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I played just that first section when you're in, like, the rubble kind of destroyed thing, and then I got through that, and then you're in, like, some old town or something.
Yeah.
And you, like, talk to people. I'm like, this is nuts. I don't know what's happening.
And, I just love, like, the music, the way the story's presented, the voice acting. Like, everything comes together. And it applies the gameplay to the story, which is, pretty rare. And it handles it really, really well. So, for anybody listening, I recommend Nier.
And what platform are you playing on?
It's PS3 and 360.
Oh, right. So it's console.
It's modern,
cool. Nice.
I'll have to give that another look.
Yeah,
so I'm going to follow up one more question just to kind of put things into perspective. So what was the earliest game system that you remember being exposed to? Or game?
That's tough. I remember being at my cousin's house and playing on a Genesis and Super Nintendo too. And it was like Mario Kart and like Primal Rage.
Wow,
something like that. Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but
titles. Okay.
But other than that, we had an Atari growing up, and my cousins gave it to us. So I actually grew up with the Atari.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Because that was going to be my next question: is how far back have you played? And I find that not many people go further than the Atari because it kind of was the first like modern thing. I mean, I haven't had anybody that was like, "Oh, I was in the garage with Bushnell when he created Pong." Not yet.
No.
But that's always I find interesting because even within our studio, we've talked about how far back people have played, and there's even some of our full-time guys that haven't played, at least all the way through original Zelda and others on like the NES. And we had some of our very experienced, very well-versed producers in our Springfield studio that just skipped particular platforms, like they were a Master System kid versus a Nintendo. It's like all the original NES stuff they hadn't played, but they played just about everything on the Sega Master System.
Right.
Which happens rarely, but there is an example there too. So I'm always curious to kind of learn about where people's first exposure to games was and kind of where they feel their first console experience was. Because I find more frequently now it's like either that 64 era or PS2 era, and sometimes newer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was just focusing on you. Keep tapping the table, trying not to tap the table.
Oh.
I got your subliminal note. Yeah,
My evil.
I got
eyes
your
were
evil eyes.
I got your
the
note.
Steve Jobs eyes. Is that what you-
Oh yeah.
but yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other questions I can ask you.
Well, I can kind of cover the exposure. I played a lot of consoles. I've definitely gone back to play older games, even like obscure things like Sega CD. I played like Snatcher. That's really obscure. Great game.
Snatch is great. I love
Kojima again. Yeah.
Did you try Police Knots?
Police Knots I have not played yet, but I've been waiting for it.
Someone
yeah.
made an English
English patch.
translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played through that. That one's really good.
Definitely looking forward to it. But like TurboGrafx even. I played that. I usually find like lists or people talking about great games. I even play those.
Sure.
Like underappreciated things is what I love the most, like the cult things. I like to explore things that people haven't really touched.
So where are you getting exposure to some of these older systems? Are you finding them through like emulators or things? Or are you actually drudging up an actual TurboGrafx, of which I would love to see once again?
No, I don't have a TurboGrafx.
Okay.
But I have most of these as actual consoles. Like I would, go out and try to find them.
Cool.
Sometimes, get lucky at Goodwill. I found like an NES for like $10 at Goodwill, and it was like perfectly good. So
Awesome.
it was great. And an Atari too. I replaced my old one, and it was
I'll have to check
complete.
that out.
Yeah, it was great.
We have one Atari cart in the office.
Mm-hmm.
It's over on the shelf. It's incredibly dirty. I don't know where it's been stored. I bought it on Amazon for 70 cents.
Okay.
And it's a cart of the old game Dolphin. Because Dolphin for me is the earliest of early endless runners. And it's basically you are a dolphin underwater and you're being chased by an octopus that if it catches you, it'll eat you, similar to Temple Run's kind of adventurer and the monkeys or whatever they're called, the demons that chase the adventurer.
Yeah.
And you're underwater and you're causing your dolphin to swim through these holes in the coral reef. But it's endless running, and but you can change direction, which is interesting in that one. So that is the only Atari cart that I still have. I don't have an Atari system. So one day you have to bring it in if it's still working, and we'll see if that Dolphin cart actually works.
I hope it's still working. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Would be cool.
At least you don't have ET. I have two of those.
Do you really?
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know why, but
Get one from like the garbage dump or whatever.
No.
The landfill. And
I can't get rid of them, so
Please.
just take it away.
I would keep them, man. Those are memoirs of a forgotten land. Quite honestly, it's such. I mean, really, the Atari for me is like between Atari and Nintendo. That's where the game industry was formed.
Yeah.
Because up to that point, it was still kind of a department of like electronics versus being its own individual industry. But once you saw Nintendo take off and Sega jump in, then it became an actual industry at that point.
Definitely.
In my opinion. So very cool. Hang on to those ET cards.
Yeah, man. What was I going to ask? Oh, so you're in computer science, but we actually brought you on to be a design intern.
A design intern. Yep.
So I don't know what Matty D has you doing. Probably something crazy. Can you talk about anything that he's working on? Is there anything like super secret?
It is all super secret.
All super secret. Yeah.
So I mean, I can talk a little bit high level of what kind of tasks we presented, and this will be kind of good exposure for anyone that's interested. Is internship design specifically. But what attracted us about Brad was that he was in computer science, exploring the inner workings, but that we could offer him a chance to polish up the outer workings, which you're not going to get from a computer science program.
Right.
So how do we take that code and generate it in a way that does something that's pays attention to game design fundamentals and principles and all that sort of thing. So tasks that we've given him so far have been researching games that exist and kind of breaking them down. Like, let's break down the formulas and the modules and all that sort of thing and see what makes them tick. So we're disassembling a lot of stuff right now and then trying to reassemble it with some modifications that change gameplay. So as an example, we'll talk abstractly about a game like Temple Run, since this is what we talked about a minute ago, and say, okay, let's break down Temple Run. What do you do? How do you do it? What are the benefits for success? What are the penalties for failure? That sort of thing. And then restructuring that, and what would we change? okay, would we add power-ups, or would we make, for example, like take the game Dolphin we were just talking about. If you took Temple Run and you gave the player the option to like quickly turn the adventurer around and go the other way and disorient the demons that were chasing you for a split second, but you can only do that a certain amount of time, a certain number of times or something. That's kind of what we're pushing on Brad right now, is what changes might you make to this existing game to create a new experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
What that actual thing is that we're working with is still very secret. So it's
Right.
not Temple Run, but what it is, we can't discuss at this time.
Okay.
True.
Well, should we do an on-air exercise as for your game design prowess? So
Okay, sure.
We'll do like what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played Don't Tap the White Tiles or whatever?
No, but I've seen it, so I kind of get what you're talking about.
You know
here.
what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So how would you take that kind of formula and improve it?
So that's the one where you hold down like the black and then lift when you've got like the white passing, right? Like they fall from the sky or whatever.
It's, a row of 4 tiles. One of them is black, and then as they fall, you touch them,
Right.
and touching them speeds
And it's
it up.
score based, right?
Right, yeah.
So, I think I would make it kind of more humorous, I guess. Like I would make it like people like on a water slide or something, like don't touch the pigs or something weird. Like people are coming down the water slide and there's pigs with them, don't touch the pigs.
Don't touch the Flappy Bird.
Or touch the pigs, get them off the water slide.
Mhm.
Something weird.
Interesting.
So I'm going to pull that down real quick on the iPad here.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fine. If I had my phone with me, I could bring it up.
It's a fast download. I think the thing's only like 6 megs. So it's
Wow.
downloaded and it's open.
Wow, okay.
Very nice. Okay.
All right.
So-
See this.
While you're playing that, Brad, I think what's interesting about it is it I think it keeps the same Flappy Bird mentality, which is something that's incredibly simple.
Oh wow.
Something that the game loop could be very short, very fast, because you can fail very quickly, but very clear as to why you failed. And I think you can explain it in a sentence. In fact, there's different versions of it out and on the App Store called different things, but essentially, I think the first one was called "Don't Tap the White Tiles" or something.
Oh, it's getting fast.
And
Yeah.
and the name itself communicates the entire
Yeah.
game design. Don't tap
Right.
the white
Yeah.
tiles. So for that reason, I think that's why this is so high up in the App Store ranking. So many people have downloaded it. I mean, it is a free app. There's ads in. There's no mystery game designer behind it that I know of.
Right.
I mean, there probably is, but not to the degree that Flappy Bird's designer got such recognition yet. But it's a really fast, interesting game.
And what you're not getting is when you have the volume on, because he's playing it right now.
Right.
For those listening, it actually plays like piano notes. And it's
I
not
get it.
Yeah, so
Black and white keys.
This one's called Piano Keys, actually, on iOS. I think this thing launched originally on Android under the name Don't Tap the White Tiles.
yeah, I think so. I think that's the case.
And then somebody else grabbed that name and shipped it on iOS first.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
they made a clone on iOS,
Right.
But they took the name.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe this is the right version. I'm not sure.
I think so. It's pretty.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed about like the App Store. Like people like to just reskin something and race to sell it again quickly. And it's kind of a shame. Like people come up with these ideas, like Threes with 2048. Like they worked hard on the original idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're watching Brad play this thing right now because
mesmerizing.
it's mesmerizing. Yeah.
Really is.
I like playing it when you're doing really well. It
Oh.
feels like you're like Beethoven or something. Like you're just a master piano player. like just playing this song like super quickly and stuff.
Well, and I find that happening. A lot of these reflex-based games require the same amount of game design skill, which is really, really fast reflexes, some dexterity. Think of games like Guitar Hero, where you can watch somebody play through it on expert, and it's humanly seems impossible, but it's definitely possible because you watch these people play through it. Games like Ikaruga and others that are like super,
Love that game.
bullet hell style
Yeah.
games. Super fast paced, but you watch people play through these, and there's some logic to it once you see the solution. I think Mega Man is the same way. When you watch people play through Mega Man speedruns, there is a set formula. There's a set position, a set tool that you can use. There's some reflex and skill that you can build up. But whereas I would say something like this is all random, where you have to be very responsive to what you're seeing, games like Guitar Hero and Mega Man are set patterns that you can learn, you can get better at. I think you can get better at this game, piano tiles or whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah.
But can you become super expert? And so that might be a change I would suggest is, and I think they have it in some of their other modes, because this is classic, but there's other modes to it. But that's how we might break this down is say, okay, we might change the gameplay by having it be a set level, have it be a set number of tiles, and then you're actually learning pattern like you would in Guitar Hero. And I think that would change the game versus being random to being kind of pre-planned.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or like you could have letters, with the tiles. Maybe it's not about like hitting all the black ones, but like spelling, words and getting points. Something different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or like, the thing where it's like hit all the green numbers. They show a bunch of numbers, and it's like hit the green one, but you hit the 7 one.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Something like that. That might be pretty good. What's interesting about this, too, is they have, 6 different modes, and they all kind of vary it just ever so slightly. But it kind of makes a world of difference. Like, I enjoy, Zen mode a lot more than I enjoy
Describe Zen
arcade mode.
What's the difference?
Zen mode is... I can't even remember. Zen mode is... It's something like...
You should load it up, Brad.
You should. Zen mode, it's like it's
looks like it's time.
As many as you can in 30 seconds. So it gives you a time.
I think it's that one is like when you press the tile, it advances.
Yeah.
So now it's like tap as many as you can.
So it's as fast as possible.
Right.
Yeah. So classic is there's an end to it.
Right.
And it's just how fast can you get the end. Zen mode, as many as you can get for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy.
Right, because this is going to change the way you tap the screen.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing. Yeah. And those are good changes. And I think this is where this is different than Flappy Bird is Flappy Bird gives you one game play, right? And it's that way forever. This one gives you actually different modes, which is, in my opinion, a little bit curious for the App Store. Usually you don't see this much variation. They give you one thing, they do it very reliably and well, and then you go do that thing for a while. So it's interesting.
Or usually, it's like in-app purchases, but it looks like this was complete, when you got it from the get-go. Yeah.
Ad supported.
Right. Yeah.
So there are ads, but yeah, very cool.
So after playing a little bit, do you want to go back to your earlier answer? Maybe is there anything
the water
else?
slide.
Anything else? Maybe you would want to change anything? Not to put you on the spot.
Let's see. Right. Yeah.
This is just whatever. And this game is so bare bones. I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't come up with anything.
Sure. I mean, maybe it'll be interesting, have it like a Bejeweled style thing where you would, have to touch. I'm back to the animals on this slide because I like that. So maybe you'll have to line up 3 pigs in a row and you'll get points, or 2 chickens in a row. I don't know why a chicken would be on a water slide, but
it's the App Store. You don't need to.
It's weird.
It's all good.
So yeah, you would get points for that, but you would also have to not touch the water or whatever. So it would be the same kind of style.
I see. Cool. Interesting.
And that's the design internship. At least this first part of it. So we kind of do these things in tiers, where the first part is kind of like break down, understand existing and working apps out there. Second part is then kind of new creation, like how do we make new features happen on these games, and then the third part is coming up with completely original game idea with just a little bit of guidance, but less about studying what's already out there and seeing if we can make something completely new.
Cool. Very interesting.
Yep.
Well, I think that's all the questions I wanted to ask you.
Cool.
Let's talk about Matt Wrathel for a second.
Okay. Matt
Wrathel, what have you been playing? Anything crazy?
A handful of things been playing, actually. So I've been playing, for some reason my Xbox is staring me in the face, so I'm going back to Black Flag, just trying to get the last 6%, because David, our QA tester in the house has been doing the same thing, so it's like a race to 100, unofficially a race to 100. So I'm doing that, but not very often. It's a good thing to just kind of like go get a treasure chest quickly while you're like waiting for something to download.
Mm-hmm.
Then new things that I've been playing on my iPhone. Actually, I've been playing the Metal Slug iPhone game, which came out 2 weeks ago. They use all of the Metal Slug characters. It's really well polished. It's SNK, and but it is similar to our DOS Cube Game Jam game in that it's kind of tower defense-y, but it's that like side-scrolling tower defense, and I don't know if it has a subgenre applied to it yet. But basically, you have money that auto-generates. You're not building towers or anything. You're just shipping creeps and mobs towards the enemy base on a flat, think like traditional side-scrolling platform, a Metal Slug look. Mm-hmm. So your money's continually increasing. You spend that money to keep sending troops towards the bad guys, and the bad guys are continuing to populate towards you. And if you can push them back well enough, then you get to start attacking their base, and you keep spawning more soldiers, and you get more soldiers that unlock over time. As you finish different areas, you can unlock the enemy troops as well. So, like, let's say you're fighting in the desert, and there's a bunch of, they have fictitious enemies and stuff, zombies and other stuff. Mm-hmm. You can then buy those and unlock those in your troop category or whatever, and then you can use those to send against the bad guys again. So you can, unlock all kinds of different troop types. And it's fast. I mean, the level takes maybe 30 seconds to win or lose. But it's visually very appealing. It's in that good Metal Slug style. So the sprite art is really, really sharp. Lots of different background types. The character animations are very simple but very cool looking. Mm-hmm. They've got a crab race.
Crab race.
Yeah. So, they have a race of crabs. Yeah, not a crab race. They have a troop type that is crabs.
I see.
Okay.
We'll explain it that way. So it's very cool, because we're working on Hive Jump and heavily inspired by those crustacean, arthropod shapes to see how theirs, show up. And they've got some pretty cool sprites there. Mm-hmm. So I've been playing that a bit when I catch a free minute instead of just, wasting time doing something else. And then the last thing that I've played was the Super Time Force release, which came out last week. Mm-hmm. Created by... I don't know who.
Don't remember.
Who created
I don't
either. Look it up real quick on the pad.
Sure.
But Super Time Force, and it's a very cool side-scrolling pixel art shoot-'em-up with the game design change is that you can control time by backing up time, think like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that when you back up time, your original character stays there. So if I'm think of I'm playing Mario Brothers, and I'm running along with Mario and I die, I back up time, and then I get a second Mario that I'm controlling that can then kill the bad guy that killed my first Mario.
Oh, that's cool.
If you do that, then your first Mario stays on the screen, and you can fuse that one into your new Mario. When you do that, your new Mario has all the powers of the original one. So now when we're talking about Super Time Force, there are different archetypes of characters. One has a shield, one has a big bazooka gun, one has a laser shot that can shoot through walls. Mm-hmm. So if you are using Shield Man and you save Laser Girl, you now have the shield powers and the laser powers in one person.
Nice.
So it's a really cool change to a very established genre. The pixel art is really, sharp. It's very simplified. Mm-hmm. So think a cross between what we're doing for Hive Jump and what they did for Risk of Rain. It's still very kind of like the first round of Hive Jump, where everything is very simple pixels, but still large characters.
Right.
So looks good, plays really well. Xbox release at the moment, published under Microsoft Studios. So we'll see if it lands anywhere else, but it's Xbox for now. Mm-hmm. And I've only played through the first level. Did you find who?
Yeah, it's Capybara.
Oh yeah, Cappy Games.
I think that's right. Yeah, Cappy.
Of course.
Yeah. So good team, good shop, well respected, and from what I can tell so far, I've only played through the tutorial and the first level and a half. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard good things I haven't actually played it myself, but good things are being said about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's what's been keeping my attention lately. What I've been playing.
What about you, Brad? What have you been playing?
So like I mentioned, I love the Drakengard series. So 3 came out yesterday, actually, which is a pretty cool coincidence, because we haven't had one in like 10 years or 5 years, something like that. Anyway, I dove into the first chapter. I'm really liking it a lot. It lives up to the legend. The story's really good. The music's really good. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
I don't think I've heard of Drakengard. Can you elaborate?
Sure.
What is it all about?
So the older Drakengard games were kind of like Dynasty Warriors, where you would face, a bunch of people and you're just this one person, but you would have a dragon that you could get on and, fight everybody with. But the Drakengard games are well known for, very strange story. They're dark games, but they're really interesting, and they use the gameplay very well to tell that story. So, yeah, 3 lives up to that very well, I have to say.
Cool. What is that out on? Is that on?
That is on PS3 only.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's not in stores. You have to get it through like Amazon or you have to find it on the internet or download it digitally. Other than that, I just got done playing Vanquish by Platinum Games. Great game. That's on PS3 and 360. It was a very nice action game, and for a shooter, it kind of felt like that kind of Devil May Cry-ish gameplay, but with guns, which was really, really pretty cool. And
you ever play Vanquish, Matt Ray? Oh man, it's kind of cool.
It's really cool.
You're like an armored dude, and it's all future stuff, and you got like rockets on your shins, so you can like slide, and
really
then the
cool
rockets
power
kick
slide.
on.
Yeah.
And you're like sliding through and shooting dudes while you're sliding.
It's really fast paced. It's basically like one of those shoot-em-ups, but like in 3D, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's PS3?
PS3 and 360. Yeah.
Gotcha. If it's 360, I could try it out.
It's really short. It's like 4 hours, but it's worth playing, definitely.
Well, I like one of the things that I still really like about 360, and I don't know if Sony did the same with PS3, is that they just require every title to have a demo. Like, you just have to.
Oh.
You have to have free trial for everything. So is PS3 that way?
I don't think so.
I don't know if they have to, but there is a demo of Vanquish.
There is a demo.
Okay.
It's a great demo, too. It gives you, a good idea.
Well, if it's on 360, it's going to have a demo there, and that's the platform
Right.
from that generation.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check it out. But yeah, even when we were working on like Ben 10, I mean, it is a requirement. You cannot ship to 360 without having the free trial demo hooked in.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know
so it's
that.
nice so that anything that's going to come out for 360, you can go demo it first. So I've got a handful. I remember like old Bionic Commando that was shipped by Grin. Yeah, back in the day, they shipped that out to play a demo. Didn't buy it, and there's some that I played the demo and then totally picked it up because of it. So I think it's nice about the 360. I don't know if they're doing that the same for Xbox One. I would assume they are. Don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't have an Xbox One myself.
And I know that you don't have to do that for Steam, obviously. So
No.
because they make big deal about, oh hey, our demo's out, try it out, kind of thing. But for 360, yeah, it's required. Everything's got to have a demo. 1 to 2 levels type of thing. They put it even in their certification process. They're like, give them 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay, depending on how big your game is. 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay for some of these digital downloads is like the whole game. So you never know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Cool.
So what have you been playing?
I've been playing Dark Souls 2.
Cool.
The Dark Souls.
Yes.
Yeah, something about it. It's just scratching some kind of itch I was having.
Yeah.
I was trying to play a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Then,
Back to Dark Souls.
So how many hours have you pumped into it so far?
I mean, about 10.
Cool.
10.
It's a good jog.
Yeah. The beginning was a little rough because they changed a few things, especially where I was having trouble with like weapons because they changed how weapon durability. I don't remember. Did they have durability in Dark Souls 1?
I think so. Yeah.
They definitely did in Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Haven't played that one. Yeah.
I played that one. I didn't beat that one, but I played
I didn't beat the original Dark Souls.
Me
still.
neither.
Yeah. I have to still. It's like really good, but I just got sidetracked with something else.
Yeah, man. So they changed. So there's durability in Dark Souls 2, but it like goes down. I feel a lot quicker than it has in the past. So like my weapons kept breaking like in these beginner areas, and I kept having to use worse and worse weapons that I was just finding. So I had like this little dagger that I'm trying to kill all these zombies with, and I'm like, this is horrible. And then I realized that if your weapon's about to break, you either have to switch it or you can go back to a bonfire and then by sitting at the bonfire repairs your weapons. Yeah. So once I learned that, I guess I learned to pace myself or switch weapons now and again.
Yeah.
So once I got past that hump, then there was a little... I felt like the beginning was a little more difficult than maybe the first Dark Souls was. But now that I've kind of got the gear I'm looking for and I got like a big old shield, I'm finding it a lot easier.
See, that's interesting because, like, I know Matty D in the office has played a ton of it, loves it, but says comparatively that this one is a little bit easier because they're trying to maybe capture a little bit bigger market.
Yeah.
But you see that it was actually harder at the beginning, but then it's kind of tapered off.
Yeah. And I think so.
Okay. Interesting. I have not... I've watched people play the original Dark Souls. It's not for me. I mean, we're talking about still first person, kind of Oblivion style. I got my hand and my sword right in front of me, right?
It's not first person.
It's third person.
It's third person? Have they all been third person?
Yes.
Yep.
Is there a view that can make it first person?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
There's Kingsfield,
No.
which is made by the same people, and
No.
Demon Souls is based off.
I remember
of.
playing, like, I watched my
That's
younger
first
brother play Dark Souls, and for some reason, I remember now, okay, you are, because he had, like, some, 15-foot sword hanging off his back.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing the character. Okay. So I remember seeing the character. I don't know what it was for me.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, I mean, it just didn't. It's probably something that I would enjoy, but you're also talking to a guy who owns Eco and Shadow of the Colossus and hasn't played either one of them more than an hour, like tops, right? So, like, maybe there's something wrong in my brain.
That hurts me.
That's possible. But for some reason, I just can't get into it. I mean, and that happens to me a lot because I have to play a lot. And, like, from a game designer's perspective, Brad, this will happen to you too.
Yeah.
You play something, you break it down very quickly, you say, okay, I understand what this is, and then you put it on the shelf. And I've talked to a lot of different game designers out and around, and they all kind of succumb to that type of behavior eventually. Just because there isn't enough real time in the world, and you have to do a quick audit and quick study of things. But there's some, like, I played the demo of XCOM and had the same experience, and then got the full version just because I wanted to give it another shot, and then got completely immersed into it. So, it's all about timing, I think, and getting past, just like with a book, getting past those first few chapters to get into it.
For sure.
So someday I'll give it a go. There's too much recommendation for this series for me to ignore it.
It's worth a play, man. Like,
Definitely.
Some of the stuff is real kind of old school, the way it kind of obfuscates certain information.
Yeah.
And Dark Souls 2, this is, I guess, where the game is easier, is in Dark Souls 2, you can... if you're in a menu and you're seeing, they have just like a wall of stats for each weapon and stuff. And they're all determined by little symbols. Yeah. And in Dark Souls, you're just stuck with that. Like, you can either look it up online or guess kind of what they are. Dark Souls 2, you can hit, select when you're in that menu and then kind of thumb through.
Gotcha.
And be like, here's thrust damage, here's spear damage, here's stuff.
But you still have to do all the mental math to actually figure out if it's better or not, right? Comparatively, like Diablo basically whittles everything down to your total DPS. Like, it gives you like a round out, like, overall, like Windows experience number, right? So Dark Souls isn't doing any of that.
It doesn't do that.
Okay.
It will. You can look at one. Like, if you go into the menu and you want to swap weapons, you can click the weapon and then bring up all your weapons, and it'll show your stats red if they're lower, blue if they're higher. But then if you equip it, it factors in your character's, like, strength. Like, if a weapon scales with strength, the more strength you have, the more power it has. So it won't show you, like, plus 100, thrust damage until you actually equip it. So there's a little bit. Yeah. Like, you'll have to look, and it'll show you, like, this weapon's, scales. They give them, like, letter rankings. So it's a B in strength and a C in dex.
Gotcha.
So if you have more strength and more dex, this weapon's going to become more powerful.
Interesting.
And then there's, like, weird stuff like, if you don't have a certain item, you're not going to see like a certain part of the game.
Oh.
You know, more so in Dark Souls 1, less so in Dark Souls 2, but like I found you need a branch of some magic tree to turn people who have been turned into stone back into humans.
Okay.
Oh.
So I got one after I killed the boss, and I used it on this guy who I knew was going to sell me some cool weapons and stuff.
Okay.
But there's another woman who's turned into stone, like by this switch that you need to pull to open some door to progress to like later parts. So I'm like, oh, you know, am I just
stuck?
Did I, you know, mess
Were
myself
you
up?
tempted by the face? John was tempted by sweet weapons, and now he can't do anything in the game.
Well, it turns out that's not true. I had to look it up. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, where else can I go? You know?
Interesting.
Real cool stuff like that. And I don't know if it's like the build I made, or if I just stumbled on the perfect formula, or if, you know, what I'm doing is like the noob easy way or what. But I just have like a big shield, and I just got strength way high. So I got this huge, like, two-handed sword. You have to,
Sure.
You know, I can use that one-handed now, and then like a huge tower shield, and the tower shield just absorbs everything, and then you know, the weapon's a little slower, but you know get one hit off, and you do like a bunch of damage. So,
well, and I found that too. Like, you know, difficulty is a tricky thing. We're talking about game design, you know, because you can have people that stumble into just a really, really good build or process or philosophy experience, and it's really hard to balance everything for new players and existing players. You know, I was talking with Ben Sievers, who's been on the cast a couple of times, about Metal Slug, and like right now I have a pretty set formula that I do every time I go into a level. I build this thing that gives me more money right off the bat, and then I build these particular two guys, and they go blast at stuff.
Yeah.
And I do that like every time. And I've like gone from like each world has like 5 levels, and I've gone all the way from like 1 to level 9 with really no, besides maybe 1 or 2, no real slumps in between. I spend the money I get, I go upgrade stuff, I go fight. And it's all been pretty fast. Like there hasn't been any like RPG grinding of improving my troops in between. So, you know, you wonder if like, is the difficulty just well balanced? Is that considered well-balanced difficulty, or should it be harder? Do you want to cause the player to grind a little bit to improve? Do you want every world there to be 1 or 2 levels that people have to play more than once? And that's all decisions that there's no right or wrong answer. It's all about, like, in the designer's hands of what kind of, like, experience and story do you want to tell, what kind of audience are you building for, and so forth. So...
I mean, I think that's why I really like action games a lot, because they're usually difficult, but they handle it well, you know, so you don't have to, like, grind for money. Like Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, you know, these things are really tough, but designed just so very well, and, you know, like, you'll die a lot. It's expected, but, you know, you learn how to play, and, you know, it's just really tight design.
Yeah. Well, and how you handle that death is another consideration, too. You know, are there frequent save points? Are you having to redo a lot of stuff, or is it just about the actions that you're trying to do better?
Right.
So it's all part of what we'll continue to discuss as part of your design education. So very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, like the last 5 or 6 boss fights I've done in Dark Souls 2, if I haven't gotten them first try, it's been like next 2 or 3 tries. Which maybe that's perfect balance. You know, maybe that's you know, what they intended. But, you know, for the game that's supposed to be notoriously hard, I'm finding it to be not terribly too hard.
Okay. Interesting.
But there's like New Game Plus, and there's things you could do to make things harder.
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll look into that stuff if I beat the game and want more.
Sounds good.
Very nice.
Well, this is usually where we go into news.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of news. What with E3 coming up, I think.
You know, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to it. You know, E3 statistically, while you're getting some news stuff queued up, isn't really a conference that we've really gone to in the past. Sometimes our Springfield studio will go if they've got a bigger title being shown there. We just, you know, if I were to stereotype the conferences, I would say E3 is more about kind of like big AAA releases, and that's just not kind of the space we've ever been in. So conversely, like PAX is something that we would love to be at when it comes to summer, just because it is about connecting, I feel, more indie devs with the players, that type of thing. We're usually at GDC just because there is lots of developer networking with publishers and other things, license holders and so forth. But unfortunately, E3, usually we have to just kind of watch it on the interwebs. There's just not a whole lot of, besides being fans of the conference and the stuff that's being shown, I mean, as far as our shop, there's not a lot of releases and other things that, impact us coming out of E3.
Right.
But, Brad, have you had an opportunity to go to any game conferences?
Oh, I wish. Yeah, every year, I watch E3, I keep up with it, and, I'm always going, oh, I wish I was there, every year. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
E3 is a lot of energy. Like I mentioned, our Springfield studio director went when we had a couple of Disney products that were getting launched. They had a kiosk. We've had other stuff shown there, but we just haven't really attended.
Right.
Versus GDC, which we're pretty much at every single year.
Cool.
So, what are you finding, John? What's out and happening in the industry?
The news world.
Maybe not directly games, but kind of games is...
okay.
What was it? YouTube bought Twitch.
Yeah.
For $1 billion.
Yay, billion. Yeah, I think it's a good acquisition in my opinion.
I haven't seen people up in arms like when Facebook bought Oculus.
Right.
So I think because
I guess maybe it's okay.
Well, it feels natural to me.
It seems to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know anybody that's really yells about YouTube. I know a lot of people that yell about Facebook. And I haven't really figured out exactly why, but I think they see YouTube as being still owned by Google, yeah?
Yes.
So effectively it's Google buying Twitch. I think people look at Google and they think kind of Microsoft-y. Google wants to build all this stuff, but they create an OS like Android that just everybody can kind of get after and stuff. So I think they still perceive Google and in turn YouTube to be good people.
Yeah.
But I think there's a much more conflicted opinion of where Facebook's at. Not to mention if Facebook bought WhatsApp, people were like, oh, they spent a lot, but fine, makes sense. They bought a bunch of users. When they bought Oculus, everybody was kind of confused as to why. What is Facebook doing there?
Yeah.
And then why from the Oculus side too?
Mm-hmm.
What does Oculus want with Facebook besides just a bunch of money? Whereas Twitch, I think makes more sense. YouTube is a video and visual delivery of content video wise, and so is Twitch.
Right.
So it feels more natural to me. Twitch probably wants that infrastructure for delivery. Mm-hmm. YouTube just wants to grow their audience base. So feels good to me. I'm down.
Yeah, I think I'm down too. I just, I have the complaints about the Google Plus with the YouTube. That's just been kind of annoying lately, where you'd have to use Google Plus with the YouTube account. And it's just kind of a mess to understand, who you are logged in as. So we'll see.
And that feels to me, more like a Microsoft-y decision.
Right.
Microsoft, you got to go get a live account to do all this stuff.
Yeah, this all needs to be linked, right?
Yeah,
it's
so
weird.
You're kind of grown, but you do it anyway. I kind of feel like Google's services is kind of the same way, where, whatever, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll sign in. And we've done some Twitch casts, if that's a word, but some streams on Twitch for only Hive Jump, and it's been reliable and seems like a cool service. We post those same feeds to YouTube eventually, and maybe it can be more streamlined now. So maybe it can be some conveniences there. Would be nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this story on Kotaku. Someone's got their hands on the Oculus Rift, and they're doing something real dumb with it.
Uh-oh.
You want to guess who?
So, someone being a person or a company?
I don't know if you
I already
saw,
spoiled
so
it.
don't you say nothing.
Okay, so this is the guess.
The guess.
I heard this on a previous podcast, and I thought it was a cool concept, and so it's the guessing. So somebody's got a hold of the Oculus, and they're doing something that is questionable.
Sure, yeah.
That's
a nice way to put it.
And I'm going to say...
Well, not even questionable.
Just weird.
It kind of makes sense,
Weird.
but kind of maybe the implementation of their thing is weird.
Is it Is it Oracle?
No.
No.
New clue.
It is not software.
Is it Calvin Klein?
No.
Not quite.
Am I getting there?
Not really.
Not really, no, but
Sort of, I
think
guess.
C.
C.
Yeah, the letter C.
The letter C.
You were close with Calvin Klein.
Chanel?
No.
Am I out of fashion?
Go younger.
Go younger.
Younger.
C. And it's a person or a company?
Company.
Company, yeah.
Young company C.
It's a pretty good hint right there.
Oh, I'm losing it. I feel like I should know this. Young company C.
It's not a young company. It's a company for young
For young people.
Oh, now that you said the letter C, I'm thinking like now Instagram or Snapchat.
It's not
Nope.
software.
No, you said it's not software. I don't know what young kids do. All right, I give
You
up.
haven't taken your daughters to this place
Wait. C.
for maybe a birthday?
Chuck E. Cheese?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. What are they doing?
Apparently Chuck E. Cheese is making some sort of Oculus Rift ticket blaster experience
Oh, gosh.
That's nuts.
that I
Okay.
see. Apparently, and I'm just kind of skimming through something. They have an Oculus Rift set up, being introduced in select locations in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Others planned in San Diego, California, and Orlando, Florida. Ticket Blaster is a large tube that whirls paper prizes around the entrant's head,
Okay.
challenging them to snatch as many prizes as they can before the wind stops blowing.
So they've got
Okay.
this like in a physical form already. They
Yeah.
do this thing. You put a kid in a tube and it blows air and grab the coins
Right.
and stuff. Okay.
So I think you do that, but with
But
an
just with
Oculus.
Oculus, like,
Oculus.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, like, I think it's, I don't think they're going to be the first, or I don't think they're going to be the last to try stuff like that, because you got things like Dave & Buster's that have had the space and the audience to do big virtual reality style games, like big experience games. So they'll have the huge DDR pad. They'll have the, like, Holyfield boxing. That's not Holyfield, but whoever the boxing, you put your hands in the gloves and you're hitting in the air and stuff. So, I mean, I think you'll see that spring up in kind of these amusement park type of things quite a lot. It's interesting, though, because we actually have done games for Chuck E. Cheese on the DS. So there's a Chuck E. Cheese back in, like, the mid to late 2000s, when, like, mini-game compilations were, like, the thing to do on handheld devices. Chuck E. Cheese got in on the action, and it was carnival games type of stuff, and they were all pretty solid games on the DS. But I don't know if there were any kind of sequels or additional versions of it. So I don't know how, you know, Chuck E. Cheese is an amusement company, and this is like a new way for them to try out new technology. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I wouldn't be surprised to see less, you know, mentionable uses for Oculus and like a Dave & Buster's and other stuff too. So, yeah.
I suppose there'll be a day where, you know, before you enter the Chuck E. Cheese, you just put on the headset, and then you just walk around with that the entire time. And it's just like a big empty warehouse, but you put this thing on, and the mouse is walking
That's
around
weird.
virtually, and there's games virtually you can play, or
Could
Yeah.
be interesting.
it could be
I
crazy.
just see a lot of broken equipment in the future. You know,
A bunch of head injuries.
these kids are just going to throw it on the
blind
ground.
kids walking around.
Could be.
Okay.
Again, I don't think there's any other big news stories unless, Brad, you know of something.
I don't think there is anything major going on.
We talked about all like the connectless Xbox last
Right.
week, which was big news.
Unless I'm not thinking of something.
Yeah, we'll say there's nothing else. We'll
There's
say
nothing else.
absolutely nothing else
Yeah.
happened. And we'll move on to, I guess, our questions, our Q&A section of the show.
Sure.
And I don't have the site loaded up. We usually go to Steam Greenlight comments, but those have been dying out since we've been greenlit.
So, I mean, I'll just say maybe I'll just kind of sub in by way of a few announcements. I mean, as far as Hive Jump is going right now, we are continuing to push forward with our plan to get towards a workable, playable demo that is sharp, that shows the core gameplay experience, shows updated character art and enemy art, new weapons, and kind of that full, complete game loop. So really, the comments have kind of slowed because we've been so heads down on pushing that forward. But we want to thank and remind everybody that they can find us on social media. You can find Hive Jump on Facebook at /Hive Jump. You can find Hive Jump on Twitter at Hive Jump. And you can always kind of watch and search for Hive Jump on Steam to see kind of announcements there. We're getting ready to push some new art and content to the Steam Greenlight page. And you can see some of that previewed at our Kickstarter page for Hive Jump. We still update that Kickstarter page. We're still very thankful and supportive of those original backers from that first campaign. And so that's why we push all of our new content there first. But we've got to do some updating of things and get some of the more recent sprites and animations out on those platforms as well. So that should be coming very soon.
I'm on NintendoLife.com.
Okay.
Because for whatever reason, they have Hive Jump on there coming to Wii U.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which, can we say right now definitively no current plans to go to Wii U?
Quite the opposite. Definitely current plans to go to Wii U. Where have you been, John?
Oh, man, I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely. So here's kind of how that works, though. So two things happened that allowed us to make that announcement. First was that we as a team, not we as a console, had worked out partnerships and relationships with Nintendo to be certified for the platform. So this is something that our Springfield studio has in the bag. They've been developing for Wii for a long time and are very familiar with the platform as well as Wii U. So we had to kind of work out that partnership. So our team at Graphite is still very much focused on developing the excellent PC experience. And then we're going to get some help from our Springfield studio to make sure that translates well into the Wii platform. So that's the first thing. The second thing that happened was Nintendo, as well as Microsoft, but Nintendo worked out with Unity a deal to where they could cover their licensing costs for any Unity games going to that platform, which has opened the doors pretty wide open for indies to make that transition. Our Springfield studio has made Wii games in the past using Unity. They understand the process, and it's going to be very similar for the Wii U. The architecture is very similar. There's some controller and other systems that we have to take into consideration, but the fact that threshold's been removed, licensing for consoles through Unity is incredibly expensive. And that's what's kept a lot of, I think, independent developers from considering those platforms. Now that they've worked out that deal, now that payment threshold has been removed, you'll see a lot of other developers, including us, including that in our pipeline. So the reason why we're so well presented on all these Nintendo forums is because we were talking with somebody from, I believe it's Nintendo Enthusiast, possibly Nintendo Life, over Twitter, and explaining, that's why we're looking at these platforms, and that's why we're targeting these platforms, is because they've made a very aggressive play to make it more attainable for indie devs, as well as we worked out the details with our Springfield studio to help us with the actual implementation.
This is all news to me, man. I guess I spoke out of turn. I thought these people were crazy, making all these weird assumptions.
Not at all.
Was this even like a stretch goal on our Kickstarter or what?
So really, eventually it will be laid out in a certain way, but really there is, there's still a lot of details that have to be laid out to make that happen. But it was a Twitter conversation between me and some of the Nintendo press. And we've always had interest in going to these platforms, but what makes those stretch goals so common for those platforms is two things. One is if they're developing with a custom engine, they have to actually code for those platforms. We're not. We're developing in Unity, so it makes cross-platform capability and deployment much easier. Second is the licensing cost is very high. So if you think about, most Kickstarter campaigns, they've got to rebuild their engine to run for that platform, if it'll even run, and they have to pay this huge licensing cost in order to even deploy on that platform. We don't have to do either of those. So that's what makes it even more, possible for us and plus we've got the development help from our Springfield team. So 3 very big considerations that maybe most developers would have to take into account are being removed. So it's making it for a much clearer path. And I think that's what Unity and Nintendo and Microsoft were trying to do. And that's why, we've looked at doing Nintendo first, is because our Springfield studio has so much experience with Nintendo platforms. So,
okay, cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah. PC is still focus. The PC version will still be the lead platform. We're still very much pushing to Steam and making sure this game is an amazing experience on PC first. There's no launch time frame set for any kind of additional platforms. So there's still a lot of things fairly up in the air in that regard. But as far as making it part of our focus, target, and intention, Wii U is going to be on there.
Just kind of thumbing through the comments. I don't see a whole lot of questions per se. Luke88 says, looks like a lot of fun. Sinalefa?
What?
I don't know. Anyway, she says, I actually like this. That intro reminds me of Hero's Duty.
Hero's Duty.
So Hero's Duty is from Wreck-It Ralph. It's a kind of a fictitious kind of Halo style game that they make for that show.
Yeah.
And it's got Jane Lynch as kind of the main commando who kind of introduces the game concept, and you're basically destroying a bunch of alien creatures trying to get to the top of this light tower where you can flip the switch and it destroys all the alien creatures. So it really is, there is some similarities in that we are a group of space marines still. Instead of climbing a tall tower, we're going under the planet's surface. And instead of flipping big beam of light at the end, we're actually deploying a nuke that can, gas the whole place. So there's some similarities.
Mm-hmm. A Vane, I don't know these names.
Okay.
Says, if it has local as well as online, I'll bite. I'm already looking forward to Helldivers on PlayStation console, so having a co-op shooter on Nintendo platform would be a great as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason why I think that's a good platform to shoot for is, I'm a Nintendo kid at heart. I love the platform. Nintendo's always been great to work for and put games out on their platforms. I have Helldivers I'm not familiar with, but local co-op is great. It's something that we had to add after we even announced our first Kickstarter, because we realized how important it would be to making console play successful. So it does change some of the design. We have to worry about, just think of something like, changing your character's loadout or something. If it was, online multiplayer, you could take over player one's whole screen with that system. But if it's local co-op, you can't occlude the whole screen, or maybe you do anyway. But those are decisions, still have to be made to balance between local and online multiplayer.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've been going for an hour, so I'll close the show with my Mogo 2.
Okay.
He has a comment here that says, awesome. And then right above that, my Mogo 2 has another comment that also says, awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Thanks. My Go 2 twice.
Thank you very much.
For your support of the game, and to really all the Nintendo fans. It's been pretty impressive and encouraging to see all these Nintendo fans show up when we started talking about the Wii U. So that's encouraging and supportive, and that's the energy we like to see. So I'll kind of close on that. Yeah, thanks, and it's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Nintendo fans, and thank you everybody who's listening. Thank you, Matt Rathel and Brad Austrin, for sitting in with me on this
overcast,
kind of
not quite sunny day.
Not quite sunny day.
Kind of sunny St. Louis day, and that's gonna bring the show to a close. And we'll have another one next week.
See you, everybody.
See ya.